Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today recapping our loss against the Philadelphia Eagles. So for me, I personally really enjoyed this game. I enjoyed this game so much for so many reasons. And really the whole NFL this week. I think these games just continue to show people why they can't predict games because they rely so much on surface level data and stuff that is not consistent. You have to understand matchups more so than anything, because the fact of the matter is the schedule is going to dictate a lot of your stats. And so just because you're ranked here or there, the Bears pass defense is a good example, even though I'm going to give them a lot of kudos today. That's a great example. For the longest time, we were ranked third in the league, and I told you we're not a third best passing defense. The reason we were that is because people were running on us so much. So it's just those pure numbers and stuff like that, and those narratives that people try to talk about is the reason they never able to accurately predict the NFL. Now, I'm not saying anybody can do that, but the fact is there's just so many more factors. This isn't Madden. This isn't, 99 overall and that's it. No, there's a lot of mental factors, emotional factors. This is a team of 50 plus people plus the coaching staff. There's so many things that go into each week. These are human beings and a lot can impact the game. Now, with that being said, let's start with the defense. I will just say overall, and I know how some people might feel about it, but I just call it how it is. One thing you know about me, if you're a listener, when the Bears are playing great football, you'll know it. Because if I'm telling you it's great football, it's legit. It's not just to feel good. It's not just to, get down with a narrative. And so I have to tell you the truth. This was more about the Eagles, and obviously they did do some things on offense, but this was more about the Eagles' terrible game planning and execution than it was about anything else. And I came away impressed with the defensive coaches, and I'll get more into that. But still, at the same time, to me, we know what the Eagles can do, and we've seen, it's week 15. We know what they can do, and we know what the matchups are. But early on, first of all, you had Miles Sanders didn't get his first handoff until past the halfway point of the second quarter. That man almost had 155 or 150 yards last week rushing. Like, where does that happen? Now, I don't watch the Eagles every week. I've seen them a few times in the prime time slot, but I don't know if they run read option that much or if they run Jalen Hurts the way they did today, but it made no sense to me. You got the worst run defense in the league, if not one of them, and you got a low talented defensive line versus the most dominant offensive line in the league. And so the fact that you came out in the first drive and you decided to run read option didn't work and then you just kept doing it, it was bad. But then you come back drive after drive and you continue to try to run out of the shotgun or try to do gadget runs instead of lining up and coming downhill. And so that was already bad there. But then Hurts, and I can't tell you why I'm not on that sideline, but he was really not making smart decisions today. Some of his decisions were forced. I'm not going to say that it was completely bad, like that second interception to Houston Carson. That is just one where I think it was a force. I wouldn't say it was a bad read. Obviously, you don't know if the receiver is going to slip or not, but you can see it was a tight window. And so that is something that I would prefer you to just move past. And the same thing, I compare it, is not as bad. Or I'm sorry, Fields' play last week, the interception, or last time he played, that wasn't as bad as Hurts' interception, but it's the same concept where no, it's not, the defender standing there, but at the same time, you should be able as a quarterback to see this is going to be a tight throw. and then you got to decide if it's worth going for or not. And so Field or Hurts just whole first half just really bad decisions. Not sure why. And so that completely just put the offense out of sync, and the defense, they did their job. And I was talking in the community a lot today. Obviously the announcers pointed it out. We were doing a lot of movement. We've been doing that for a long time just because we don't have the defensive personnel. But a couple games that got us killed. This game, it happened to work, and I'm curious to go to the film just to see how much we did it. But in the past game, it completely confused the offensive line, which I just don't get. I don't understand. I was shocked to see one of the best offensive lines really have trouble with that. But I'm always shocked when I see an NFL offensive line have trouble with these stunts and everything. Some blitzes are creative, I get it, but a lot of the movement stuff, the games, they're not hard, in my opinion. I mean, the reason it's so shocking to me is because these aren't like new things. These aren't like stuff we've never seen before. All this stuff we've seen, and whether it's our game or other games, a lot of offensive line having trouble this year with that. These are all things that we run on the high school level. It ain't no different. A TE stunt, a ET stunt, like it's the exact same thing. My first year of coaching, our defensive line coach, he wanted to do that every third down. And the D coordinator said, yeah. So we literally, Texas and El Paso. Texas is tackle first, then end loop around. And El Paso was the end crash in first, then the tackle loop around. So we would literally put the hook 'em horns up, which is Texas. And I forgot what the symbol for El Paso was, but we would just do that and it's El Paso. That's it. We ain't got to do a whole lot. We just add that in. And then we would do left and right hand, or like we would split it up. So like I'm the left side, he's the right side. So we could do Texas on both sides, or we could do El Paso on both sides, or we could mix it up. So this is stuff you run on a high school level. And to be honest, it was pretty solid, but it didn't kill a lot of teams. So it's just interesting to see not only high school, but college, like people able to pick this stuff up. In the NFL, they have such trouble with it. But anyway, we'll go to the film and talk more about that. So I do come away from the Packers game and this game impressed with the defensive staff, because you had Eddie Jackson go down. You had the two rookies out with concussions. They're back this game. But even still, just not a good group. I mean, our second corner, that's not a spot that we're strong at. Jalen Johnson is solid. And I think today he showed, look, you go up against A.J. Brown, not the fastest receiver, big physical guy. Jalen Johnson can bang with that type of guy. That's the type of stuff. He's a beat him up corner. That works for him. But you can see, like, he had to get on his hoof to even cover him in them verticals. And again, A.J. is not the fastest dude. But that's the type of matchup that you say he'd excel in. You'll be like, AJ Brown caught this many yards, but obviously those are explosion plays. But we saw he was battling with him, but he's still just, an above average corner. And so while he can play good scheme ball, we don't have that other corner on the opposite side. Again, Eddie Jackson's gone. And I talked about against the Packers how just cohesive we played in the secondary, which to me, well, I couldn't say it's our weakest link, but it's not a good group. And it's Aaron Rodgers who's familiar. And so I'm thinking he's going to tear us up. And I think we played well. And even today we played well. Obviously, they hit some big plays towards the end. But again, it's just not the blown coverages. It's just not the mistakes. Even the interception with Houston Carson. Again, that's a tight window. They don't need to most of the time in the secondary, even Kyler Gordon interception. Most time in the secondary, you don't have a Jair Alexander type interception. Most of the time it happens because of bad accuracy. That's just the truth. Most of the time you get interception is because of bad accuracy. But you're never going to get that interception if you're not in the right spot and in a close window. Because, a corner is not going to be standing there in the flat by the line of scrimmage with nobody there, and then the quarterback just decides to throw it to him. That rarely is ever going to happen. More times than not, they're going to be thrown to a spot downfield, not accurate, and then you're there to make the pick. So that's what you need as a secondary. And I try to talk about that many times, that it's not the talent per se. The most talented defensive unit, with the biggest names, is not necessarily going to be the best units. The Bengals are a great example of it. It's the teams, it's the defenses, it's the units that understand their assignment and they play discipline. They might not have the athletic ability to make the crazy plays or whatever, but if you play solid, then you can give yourself opportunities. And that's really what we saw today from the Bears secondary. And I was really impressed. So I think about, and even with the defensive line stuff, I think about what we have when we lose Roquan, we lose Robert Quinn, we lose Eddie Jackson, even how we looked when they were all here. And to see the adjustment that was made, and I'm not just saying, oh, it's the D coordinator. I'm talking about the staff. All these things are staff things. The adjustments we made and the ability to teach it gives me a lot of courage. And that's a lot of things that people don't look at or care about because there's no stats to it. The ability of a coach to teach is the most important things. You can scheme all this up, but if you don't know how to teach it to each individual group, position group, so that we can execute as a unit, it won't matter. And so I'm impressed with the adjustment and what we've been able to do. All right, so going to the offensive side of the ball, it was interesting. I mean, we know what type of position Justin Fields puts you in. That part happens. And one of the biggest plays was him breaking out of a sack and making the long run. That part's interesting. And the Eagles aren't the run defense that everybody thinks they are. And again, that's why you can't just look purely at stats. And so I've seen from most of the year, the Eagles have been one of the worst efficient run defenses on first down conversions. And so even though the total yards and everything might look one way, that's something that you gotta, that's why I look at those types of stats, because it matters. Well, how you play when it matters on those conversions are important, and they were not really efficient at stopping people on third downs, and that can give you a little bit of hint as to how your unit's performing overall. And then of course Jordan Davis goes down, doesn't help, and now all of a sudden a lot of people are running on the Eagles. So all that to say, I'm not shocked by how we performed in that area. Early on, there was no real pressure on Justin Fields, and I'm talking early on. But then, like we talked about with the Eagles O-line, the Eagles D-line started running the stunts, and we couldn't pick it up. Cody Whitehair's been getting toasted on that all year long. Simply just, I mean, and this is a little bit of a guess, but I would say he doesn't have the feet right anymore to deal with that. And I don't know if he's hurt or, anything like that. But I know Cody Whitehair is a prospect coming into the league and what he's been with the Bears. He has the ability to recover on that. And so I don't know if it's just the IQ, even though I'm not saying he never had the IQ, but things change. Things change. Again, we're human beings. They're not machines. So I don't know what's going on. If he's just not seeing it like he used to, if he doesn't have the athletic ability like he used to, but he is getting completely caught up in these stunts. And Braxton Jones, a young rookie, he's not doing great either, but I almost feel like they attack Cody Whitehair. But the other side's not great at it, so I don't want to say that either. But yeah, the stunts, they start to kill us. They start to absolutely kill us. And this is one of those times where you can definitely say the pass protection let Fields down for most of the game. Now, we might look at the film, see it a little different, but for the most part, that's quick pressure. That's not, your typical hold the ball too long. That's quick pressure. And in a lot of key moments in our drives, that pressure caused us to, not be able to convert or get a good play. And so we'll look at it, but off the top, I would definitely say the offensive line, particularly that left side, didn't do us any favors today with that. Justin Fields, look, it's nothing different than I've talked about before, but one thing I see every week, these people usually talking about Lamar, Justin Fields, talking about how they don't want to hear any complaints or criticism about the running quarterback being hurt or susceptible to being hurt because Lamar got hurt in the pocket. Which, again, not shockingly, comes from some of the worst analysts that I hear on TV, former players. But that is how a lot of people in the media talk about it. And look, can you get hurt in the pocket? Obviously. Are there stats out there? Sure, but it's really just common sense and physics. Like, a lot of this is just comes down to science. I mean, when you get when you put yourself out there for the opportunity, even Jalen Hurts is not the runner Fields is or Lamar. But you see exactly why you don't want to put your quarterback out there, because it only takes one play. Like, whatever the probability and percentage is, it only takes one play, whether in the pocket or whether you're running. But I would say the percentage of that of a nasty type hit is going to be worse. And then on top of that, what people don't realize is that these quarterbacks get tired. They're like anybody else. So Justin Fields has that crazy run. Now, granted, you're in the red zone, the white zone, really. There's not a lot of field left, but even if you had that one play every drive, over the course of the game, you're wearing yourself down. You're not going to be as, or you're going to be more fatigued than you would be otherwise. And so the likelihood of you running those multiple times in a drive is not high. The likelihood of you doing that multiple times in a half is not high. And so that just goes on. And so what I'm saying is, like, you have to operate as a passer and a ball handler even after you made a big run. We've seen running backs have less of a big run and head to the sideline for oxygen. And so obviously Fields could be in good shape, but still it's going to compound at some point, whether in the game or over the season. And then you see the hamstring get tight or whatever. We saw the shoulder before. Those things are going to happen. And so, again, I've had this conversation every week, and that's fine if people are excited about what they see. Me personally, maybe I'm old school. My quarterback running for 1,000 yards, I don't need that. I'm not excited about that. That's not something I really want. And so, but we see still kind of the maturation, the steps they're taking with trying to get Fields into a rhythm, trying to get him passing the ball to some obvious spots. And, I guess I would say for one of the best pass defenses in the league, it was, it was a solid game, but the truth of it is it probably comes down more to busted coverage, fluke plays because of what they're trying to do to contain Justin Fields. That's just what that is. And some people are going to continue to say a win is a win, a good play is a good play. They're going to act like they're going to ignore the other context. But again, to me, it's all about what can be replicated, what can be consistent. And again, that's why I started the top of the show with that, because that's the name of the game. That's why a win is a lie, because it's not about just winning in that moment. If you want to talk about giving yourself a chance to get to the playoffs and all that, fine. But when you're talking about competing on a consistent long-term basis, it's about how you win. It's about how you're playing these games. and what you're doing that can be replicated week by week. What are you growing in? What are you not improving in? What needs to be taken out? What needs to keep going? And so when I see some of the successes we had today, cool, fun to cheer for, but overall, still very small steps, still a long way to go for Fields. All right, so I'm gonna wrap up there because it's hard to keep going with this coughing, but want to hear everybody's thoughts on today's game. Oh, last thing I'll say, I'm happy with this game today because um, obviously we know we're not going to go to the playoffs. And yes, if we had won, that hurts, our chance with our draft pick. But a couple things. Number one, you want your team to compete. I'm okay at first. I'm honestly okay if we shut Justin Fields down, but you want your team to compete. You want them to be able to be in situations to understand how to win games. Now, we've not executed well in that, but we've competed with good teams. And you want for whoever's going to be here next year as a starter, you want that mentality in the locker room. The other thing I'll say is I was talking with my buddy that does the draft and stuff as well, and we both agreed that we didn't come away feeling like Anderson is a slam dunk. Now, we didn't agree on Carter, but he didn't even watch Carter yet. But I feel that way. And again, it was very limited, and I'm going to get into it more deeper, but I've been doing this long enough. And every year it takes, a smaller amount of time to kind of figure out who a player is. And I'm not saying they're bad or anything. Obviously, it depends on the class. So if they're the top 2 or 3, 5 prospects in this class, that's fine. But they aren't created equal every year. And so I don't think right now, I don't think Anderson, I might say Carter twice. I don't think Anderson Jr. is Chase Young prospect. I don't think he's a Myles Garrett prospect. I don't think he's a Nick Bosa prospect. I don't think he's any of that type of caliber. And so, honestly, as far as really honing in, trying to get the number 2 pick, if Texans would have pulled off a big win in OT, maybe pushing for the number 1 pick. And it helps with leverage, but as far as prospects, I'm honestly okay. I think the value of this draft won't be in the top 5 picks necessarily. And so I'm okay with the type of game that we went out there and executed today. So hopefully that helps in the long run. All right, that's it for me. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. And thank you. Oh, sorry. Remember, stay up and bear down.